I think it's about time I give this an honest try. Phoenix, the framework, has always been appealing to me, mostly just because of how similar in maybe mindset and developer experience it seems to be to something like Laravel and Rails, and LiveView, which is the kind of WebSocket connection, is it was the inspiration to Livewire. I believe Chris McCord kind of published about it or posted about it on Twitter way back when, and Caleb Porzio thought, hey, this would be something really cool that we could build within Livewire, within Laravel as well. And of course, they're not apples to apples. They're kind of like apples to oranges in a little way, because LiveView, at least to my knowledge, is WebSockets, where Livewire is HTML over the wire. But I wanted to actually take some time and dive into Phoenix, dive into Elixir, and see if I can figure it out, what I like, what I don't like. And this is my perspective as a PHP Laravel developer. First look at Phoenix, the framework, and LiveView. Now, I have read like some Elixir stuff. I have like looked at specific tutorials and just like things, but I'm not familiar with this kind of functional syntax or whatever you want to call this. I actually don't know too much about what you would call this stuff here. I understand what it does. It looks like, this would be a module. Is probably what a PHP class is akin to. I would assume you're using the Phoenix LiveView. This is probably saying, okay, I want this timeline live to actually use everything that's available to me within LiveView. And then I don't know what this is. I'm guessing this is just HTML. So inline HTML, similar to like what you could do with Livewire. We have this inline HTML, and then you're basically saying, when I'm rendering this, I want to mount a socket, subscribe to Twitter. And this would probably be the whole thing that you would need then to, see all of this. So if someone was to create a new post like that, it just automatically comes in, because I believe this is all WebSockets. It's just saying, I want to mount this socket. I don't know what this does. Stream insert. But it looks like it's WebSockets without that much configuration. How I would build this, or how I would think about building this, is really interesting. Let's see if I can get something up and running. Get started. So we have Phoenix Express, single command, get you up and running. Really cool. I'm wondering, I actually haven't seen like this new website. I have technically looked at Phoenix and LiveView, but just basically followed instructions. I haven't really given any thought, and how I put in thought is talking through it. So like this video. So yeah, let's go ahead. I believe I have Mix and stuff all up and running. I'm just going to copy this just in case I don't, but let's see. So if I open up my terminal, and let's go ahead and just paste that in. Yep, Elixir's already installed. Does this create a new app? My app. This might create a new app. I might not want this. Okay. Well, I got it up and running, which is that's awesome. It's awesome to be able to have one, command like that and be up and running. I didn't necessarily want it. I thought I had maybe, like, I'm guessing it installed a bunch of stuff. Okay, my app. That's where it's installed in. So I'm just going to remove my app, and maybe in my code, I'm going to run that script again. And okay, it looks like I could just probably add this on. So maybe we'll just do like CURL, and then we'll say this is, Phoenix start. Okay, we're still up and running, so you can finish your Elixir setup. Elixir's been installed, activating current shell. Okay, to ensure it's always active. I don't know if I have that, but maybe I can check. So we have vim CSR HRC. Is that not it? There we go. And I just want to check that the Phoenix is there. And you can't make fun of me for how slow I am in Vim. I know that I can do a bunch of stuff to like make this a lot better, but this is all I can do right now. Okay, so we're just going to say this. We're going to paste that in there, and I'm going to save that. And we're going to source that, and then we should be good to go. So, great. This is our Elixir app. So I assume now that I have that, I could say like Elixir-V. Yeah. And mix-v, like mix works, okay. Because mix, I believe, is similar to like what PHP Artisan would be, just from the little I know. So let's go ahead and see what this via mix.new. Okay, still start your application using mix phoenix.new. Okay, so that's how you would create a new application. That's kind of like the Laravel new installer. So Phoenix Express, I really like this single command. It's nice. So I'll automatically pick one of Postgres or MySQL and fall back to SQLite. I'm curious which one it fell back to, I should say. So if we have cd Phoenix start, where did this install to? Oh, maybe it installed it as a underscore. So cd Phoenix. Yeah. Okay. Interesting. So open up code. So we have this mix.exs assets. So this is where our CSS, JavaScript, and this is tailwind config. Okay. Everything's just kind of configured out of the box, which is super nice. We have our config. I'd imagine here's where I can see like what the database it actually chose would be. Lib. So we have Phoenix start. I believe most of our application file is going to live in this lib folder. I could be wrong, but just from the little I've seen, yeah. So we have the Phoenix start. We have a repo, mailer application, and then we have controllers here. So this is the Phoenix start web. I don't know where the actual maybe it's assets, like the vendor. Like where is all of this actually living, or this I should say actually living? So we have a router, and let's see if I can just get like another page up and running. If I'm starting, so Phoenix start web, it's going to the page controller home. Okay, very nice. And so it's rendering this connection home, but I don't know where this home is coming from. Maybe from components, app, root, so app. But yeah, this is like the layout itself. Page.html. There we go. So this is the actual page. So in pages, so if I was to create like a new, I was to say like about.html.hex, I don't know how you would say that, hex. Like that's what I would want to say. So anything that is filled in here, flash group. Interesting. So imagine like if I was just to say like an H1 of about, then in maybe we'll just say in our routes, is it route.ex? Where was that router? Oh, yeah, router. Okay. Of scope of slash, we want to pipe through the browser, get the slash, and send it to the page controller of home. I'm curious if you would add like a different controller. I wonder if Phoenix has like some API, like a CLI for controllers type stuff. But I would imagine maybe just in the page controller, what I would just then define is like about. So connections, yeah, and then we could render the about page. And maybe I'll include the layout for this one to see what that layouts that it gave us is, like that app. I wonder if I could say a specific layout. So like maybe layout app. Does this use root? Like, well, I don't know the difference between that, but that makes sense. Like we have page start, and then in router, I want to then scope the slash about, pipe through browser, get slash about. Okay, I didn't break anything, but if I go to slash about, no route found for get slash about. Okay, what did I not do? So we were scoping this, or piping it through the browser. Maybe I don't have another scope. Yeah, other scopes may use custom stacks. Okay, now I just want to get about and push it to the page controller about. Yeah, I'm doing it. I wrote Phoenix. I wrote Elixir. I understand. One of the things that I think Phoenix allows you to use to set up auth really simply. Like if I was to say mix help, what options do we have here? We can generate LiveView templates. I'm just going to zoom out a little bit so I can see everything. You're not going to be able to see it, but I'm going to be able to see it a little bit better. Okay, mix phoenix.gen.auth. Okay. So it generates authentication logic for a resource. And then gen.live. So it's phoenix.gen, it looks like. So like mix phoenix.gen.auth. Oosh. Okay. We need to describe a context module name followed by the schema module and its plural name. So Accounts. I wonder what the difference between like accounts and user is. Accounts.user and payments.user. Very interesting. So you kind of have these different resources in that sense. LiveView based authentication system. I want to create it. Perfect. So we have, please refetch your dependencies. So we can mix dips.get. Okay. And then what else were we supposed to do? Mix ecto.migrate. So that's the, probably like, we need to push that to the database. I still don't know what database I'm using, so where all this information is being stored to. Okay, interesting. So now we have this register and login page, and I'm wondering then, maybe is that coming from the root? Okay, yeah, that's coming from the root. So maybe now if I, in my page controller, I don't want the app. Save that. Maybe I'm not saving it properly. So if I say layout false. Okay, there we go. So it's still going to use, even if I don't use a layout, it's still going to use the, I don't know, the root layout. So I can register. Okay, yeah, so like whatever that /1. So like maybe like, I don't necessarily want that. So the app is something that I want. I just don't necessarily need all of this. So maybe I'll just go ahead and just remove it for now. There we go. So we can create an account. So josh@laravel.com. Okay, create an account. Something went wrong. Log in. No user verify. Okay, module bcrypt is not available. Maybe I like forgot to do something. Okay. Anyway, I still do have like the /about. So I have all of that pulled in. I understand it at a very basic level, of course. I'm not doing anything yet. Something went wrong when you're trying to log in. We have the home page. We have /about. Perfect. And now let's just see if we can like direct to it. I guess like in the home page, do we have like a way of showing, or maybe like in the app router, like we have, oh, here we go. So if, okay, we can direct to, I wonder what this P thing is, but that's directing to user settings. Maybe that's just like the root, like the app. Do I need that? So like if I was to go into the about.html.hex and I was to say this is an href and I want to direct to go home, like do I need this P? About. Okay, so yeah, that does like a full page refresh, it looks like. But if I was to do this, go home, and then in home I want to /about. So I guess it's the same. I don't know what that $sign P is. Okay, so the Phoenix.gen.auth command generates a flexible pre-built authentication system. So it uses LiveView, or you can use LiveView, I should say. Either approach will create an accounts context with an accounts.user schema model. Maybe mix.ecto.setup wasn't run properly. Migration's already up. Okay. So maybe like I have to rerun this. Okay. cd phoenix start and then mix phoenix.server. Okay. So we're back onto it. Let's do the register, create an account. Okay, there we go. It's probably because I didn't like restart the server. So we have settings. See, stuff like I like this. I like that, you know, that's one of the reasons why I like Laravel, because I have authentication being able to be so easy for me. And we have log out. We're logging in. Welcome back. I wonder how it's doing these kind of like pop-ups. So in like auth, or where is that pages? So we have the page. Oh, so it's in this live folder. Okay, so user login. I guess that would be it. Okay, socket assigns flash. I'm guessing So we have the live. I'm guessing there's another file or another folder that is in addition to this. Because when we have Livewire, you traditional structure, you would have a view file and then you would have your class file. I'm guessing that's in a completely different spot. So we have the lib of, so is this the migrations then? The schema, is that technically the migrations? It looks like it. So like if I wanted to make a change, do I just like run it again? Like how do you have migrations then? User login live. Okay, so where is it pulling the, so if I was like logged out successfully, like where is it grabbing that? Logged out successfully. Session controller. Okay. Okay, so yeah, this is just something that it just generated for me to be able to have this flash. But I imagine like that's how it would do it. If I want to like show anything in the flash, it just automatically pops up, I guess. Very interesting. Why don't I try to generate a new like LiveView template and see how that might work? So we kind of generated, I mean, we didn't generate, I just created a new file and that showed like the about page. But maybe we can generate a new template. So if I wonder if they have like prompts where I like, if I only have a blank, if it'll show up as more. So like if I was to do Phoenix, or is it mix Phoenix dot live view, mix Phoenix dot gen dot live. Does it like give me something? Okay, no, I have to actually tell it. Gen dot live. So that's really what I want. I've generated resource. Let's say I want like something associated to users. So like if I want to do like mix Phoenix dot gen dot live accounts user to-dos, accounts user to-dos. Let's just do that. You're generating into an existing context. Phoenix start accounts context currently has 19 functions, 3 files. Okay. I don't necessarily know if I understand context, like over how that's actually grouped. But we're just going to say yes. Interactive overwrite. Let's go ahead and go for it. Mix ecto.migrate. Let's just see. Okay, so we created a table of to-dos that's somehow associated with this context of accounts and users. Now let's see like what actually happened here. So we have live, user live, show user. Maybe I like put it wrong because we have a show and an index. And so I'm guessing this is like generating specific pages for us. Like if we go to like users, so in router, we have, so I probably didn't necessarily want it to be in accounts maybe, or even like users. Okay, starting from scratch, just because I broke everything. So we'll go ahead and call this, instead of my app, we'll still call this like Phoenix start. I'm curious if I can see now what database it actually pulls up, because this is just the fresh from the beginning. I kind of already know how to create the page, but how do I get these live view pages kind of up and running? That's where I'm a little curious about. We didn't actually configure a database yet, it doesn't look like. But we configure it and config dev.exs. So if I pulled open this in code, devs.exs, dev.exs. Okay, so this is where we're configuring our database, and it looks like it's going to start with a, okay, so it kind of did for us. We have a schema migration, we just haven't necessarily ran it. So if we do mix ecto.create, mix ESS was found in the current node. That's because we are not in Phoenix start. Mix ecto.create has already been created. Okay, so if it's already been created, now we just have to run the migrations, but we don't necessarily have any migrations yet. And this is where we can do the auth. So we can do mix phoenix.gen.auth. Okay, mix deps.get, and we're going to do mix ecto.migrate. I'm going to stop that, but then run mix phoenix.serve, phoenix.server. Mix phoenix.server. Okay, so we should be up and running again. Refreshing. Okay, we have the register and we're creating an account. We've got an account created. Perfect. We have our settings. We have everything back in the way it's good. Now, what I wanted to create pages specifically to create to-dos for an account. Let's see. So if we do like mix to our user, we want to add to-dos with a name of string .gen. Okay, this makes a little bit more sense because maybe we want it to be the users. Now we're creating like this own users context. Because I believe like what I was doing before with this accounts user to-dos would be associated. Like we basically want a user. Because how did we generate the actual, I think we want like user to do or users. That's what it is. So it's a user's context now. And maybe we don't have that context, but now we do. Because we don't necessarily want to associate to accounts maybe, or maybe it is just accounts and then to do, or maybe it's just users. So we'll just say users to do, to-dos, name string. Okay, mix ecto.migrate. That seems a little bit more proper because now we have this to-dos pages. No route found for good / to-dos. We have live to-dos. Oh, we need to add these. Okay, so when we generate this, it doesn't necessarily add them. Okay, so we're adding all of this and then we're migrating, but we already added, I think we already migrated. So in our router, is that where we do it? Add live routes to your browser in Phoenix Start Web. Okay, so we don't even need to add it to our, there's no like live router. We just add it here. I think we added it here, right? Okay, so here's where we have like the different, this is the live session. So we're going to add it probably here, but not in authentication routes. But this does require an authenticated user. So I would probably add it here. So now we have to-dos. But if I was to log out, we can't go to the to-dos, right? Okay, that's great. You must log in and access. Okay, that's great. I love that. Okay, now we're going to create a new to-do. First to-do, we're going to save the to-do. Perfect. If I log out and I create a new account, I'm assuming I'm still going to be able to see that to-do. So josh@laravel.com /to-dos. Yes, we see it. Now, how do I associate it with it? Let's go ahead and create, go to the to-do, the new index and to-do live. This is where Elixir becomes a little bit more, it feels very foreign to me when I'm looking at this. I don't really know what I'm looking at. I know that an index, this is the HTML, but then we also have this index.ex. So, okay, this is the Livewire class, if you want to call it that. And then this is the actual view. But here, I don't know how to say, I'm guessing here. So users.list-to-dos. I'm just curious what Claude is going to say. Okay, so this helps me out a little bit. Again, I probably could find this in the documentation, but this gave me a little bit more context, I suppose. And I don't know the whole context and schema type stuff. So this technically says you generate a to-dos context, which I didn't do that. I just generated a to-do model. So I don't know if that's necessarily needed, because here I would assume like this is the context, right? You have a Phoenix Start, you have accounts, and then the users have a to-do. But I don't necessarily know. Okay, so again, asking Claude, it looks like the user's context, it's if you want to like associate it with outside of that given thing. If I want to say, maybe give me all the to-dos, I have to say, give me all the users to-dos. Which is interesting though, because I can do that on the page. So I still don't necessarily know if I understand like the context logic. All right, so I'm back. I had to take some time and step away to really get a grasp of what Phoenix and Elixir brings, but I think I have a little bit of a better understanding, and that way I can kind of talk a little bit about, at least in my mind, what the key differences are on first grasp. Of course, I'm not really diving into a lot of intricate details of Phoenix and Elixir. All of this is just kind of like, okay, hey, here's the things that I know don't quite line up with my mindset for how you would build something within Laravel, for example. Okay, so usually what the key things that I like to get a better understanding of, and I haven't even touched things like mailing or queues or jobs or crons or anything like that. This is just strictly a database and authentication, basically, and how those models and resources kind of align. So the first thing that I really didn't understand on first grasp was context. So why don't we dive into the code and I can talk a little bit about this, at least from my new found understanding in the last couple hours. So the biggest thing that I kind of didn't understand right off the bat was the difference in contexts, because in order to create and scaffold it out accounts, you kind of, or user and authentication, you kind of have accounts, and then accounts have a user. And, this isn't exactly the same within Laravel because you have just a user model. And so as best as I can understand, within the context of Laravel to Elixir/Phoenix, accounts is going to be the model as a whole, maybe like the service model, where user is going to be actual like the user.php. And so accounts might have things like maybe subscription or tokens of that nature, but it's not going to hold other models such as like to-dos. Same thing with like a user wouldn't have its own context because a user doesn't have too much things associated with it. It's really associated to the account. In this case, we have a user notifier, user token kind of given to us out of the box. So a to-dos is its own separate thing. Now, this is the other part that's a little interesting because you don't really necessarily have migrations for the most part, at least from what I can understand. If I was to change a field, I run this ecto, I forget the actual name, mix.ecto maybe, or mix.migrate, ecto.migrate, that's what it is. And then it will generate its own new migration, but that's only if you're adding fields. So this is kind of like the source right here, this to-do.ex. And this is where, of course, I can have like casts. So I had this belongs to, and the cool thing is if I generate this file using saying, hey, I want a user ID that is attributed, or I forget the exact naming, but in the CLI, I created this, and then I could just change it to this belongs to, which is really similar to I believe, a kind of relationship within Laravel. And I do the same thing in the user.ex. Now we have this has many of the to-dos.to-do. Another weird thing is like you have the name of the project here. So like, this is probably Elixir specific, of course, but if Phoenix start, that's my name of the project. And then you have the to-dos context and then to-do. Same thing within to-do. You have the counts context and then to-do. So I think that's how you kind of use namespacing within Elixir. Again, a little strange for me, but I understand what's happening. So I think this to-do.ex is more migrations and kind of like the structure of the model, whereas the to-dos, plural, is going to be more the helper functions that you generate for the model itself. So in this case, if I wanted a list to-dos or a list user to-dos, and this is where you would have, I don't believe I changed anything in the users. Well, there is no users, it's just accounts, but this is where you would have kind of like what you would have within a user.php within Laravel from my limited understanding. So the one weird thing that really tripped me up a little bit in order to get this working for user authenticated to-dos, in the sense that I only wanted these to-dos to be shown if you create them, because the first one of being able to have in my to-dos here and being able to show, where did I put it? Being able to show or list user to-dos. This all makes sense, and this actually was scaffolded out for me with Copilot, because then in my index, index over here, the index.ex, I have this mount. And here is where I can say, okay, I'm getting the user token from the session, and then assigning the current user and using this list user to do stream, passing in that user ID. So that way I know that when I'm mounting it, I'm passing the to-dos to this index.html.hex, but I'm using the list user to-dos method, for lack of a better term. The part that really tripped me up a little bit is in Laravel, I can use something like within any of my components, regardless of how far down they are in the tree, I can say auth user and then get their to-dos, or like create a to-do that way. Auth user to-dos create, and then create a to-do with that relationship already intact, because I know who's logged in. And to my understanding, at least from the AI that I talked to, as well as just a little bit of Docker reading, I don't think that's the way to do it within Elixir. And that kind of tricked me up a little bit, because I was able to mount all the to-dos here. But then let's say one thing that was interesting is now I have to assign the current user to any socket that I open. And this is probably specific to LiveView, because I think each component is its own socket connection. So I'm not sharing that state, I believe. And that's probably what is hard for me to wrap my brain around, is because it's just a new WebSocket connection whenever you're doing something like listing the to-dos, or creating a new to-do, or editing a to-do. And so I'm having to pass and assign a current user attribute to the socket's current user. And so when I'm wanting to create a new to-do, I can't just say, okay, when I create this in the form component, let's just create a new to-do. In this case, this is update. So here, save. Where's create new to-do? Aha, yes, I did learn about this build association thing, and I don't know if that's the right way to do this, but that is a way to say I want to grab the user, but I still have to pass that user in. So like in this case, the socket assigns current user, and then I can associate their to-dos that way. But I think it's best or better maybe to just grab the user ID from the form itself. So in this case, I'm passing the current user in the modal, and then I just have that ID readily available for me. So again, not super clear on that, but it's probably my own misunderstanding of how sockets and everything works in that sense. So it's more of like passing that around instead of having it be globally accessible, because a new WebSocket connection might be opened every single time one of these things gets opened. And so everything works great. Testing here, and we can create it. But if I was to log out and log in, well, let's go ahead and add a to-dos thing, maybe in the root. Maybe we can just say, let's add a new link here of to-dos. I still don't know exactly what this $P is. I wonder if it's like, so if I said user to do, does it give me an error? href, no path. Okay, yeah, so it's Phoenix start web. So like this is probably like the path itself. Okay, so there we go. I need to log in first. That's why it's not showing it. So we have Josh Laravel. There we go. Now we have to-dos. Perfect. And this is a different testing to do. If I was to delete this, log out, and then log back into the other account, we should still have a testing to do, and we do. I can edit that, complete. Okay. So I understand a lot of like the structure of separation of concerns. It took me a little bit, but the difference is mostly just syntax, and at least in my mind. Of course, there are some niceties that I am accustomed to, like the easiness. It's a little bit more verbose than I'm accustomed to. Overall, I get why people love Phoenix, because it's clean, it's simple, it's fast, and a lot of the APIs and just things that it gives you out of the box are very much akin, I think, to batteries included frameworks like Rails or like Laravel. Of course, I'm still not quite grasping the idea of the functional style that Elixir brings, and just the not just syntax. The syntax is weird to me, and I understand it for the most part. I mean, I have to have Copilot fill in the blanks for me, but it seems like I'm writing a little bit more code than I'm used to. But if this was something that I was learning from the get-go and I didn't have Laravel, or I would probably choose Phoenix over Rails, that's for sure. But overall, this was very much enjoyable. I'm looking forward to being able to dive in maybe a little bit more and see what they have to offer in terms of things like mailers, or really where does it shine within a web application, because I know Elixir is where multiple connections all at once, the speed is really where it shines. So when I have a problem that I can use for this to kind of learn more, I'm really excited to dive in. But regardless of your thoughts on Phoenix, maybe you should just try it out, see what you think, whether you're coming from Laravel, maybe a JavaScript background. Overall, just keep creating.